Now that we have set up the VR character, let's make the hands next. Go to the player module script. Create a function to return right or left. Next, make a function to create dummy hands. Before explaining why, let's first add another function so the reason is clear. For our other function, it will return a table containing custom variables. Each hand will have its own separate table too. Now, about why the dummy hands exist, they will be attached to a server hand. As the dummy hand moves, the server hand will follow. Back in the player module script, in the onCharacterAdded function, initialize both hands using the functions we recently made. Just in case, let's add this code to make sure the hands won't fall off the map. Now, in the VR local script, at the very top, reference the VR service. This service lets us use functions related to the VR headset. Now, let's create a function that uses the VR service. Since we can't get the C-frame of the VR controllers by referencing it, we will use the getUserCFrame function to get the C-frame of either the headset, the left or the right controller. In the VR render step, use the function we made for both the left and right controllers. We can do that by using the enum.userCFrame, right hand or left hand. In the server script, set the network owner of the dummy character's VR model's descendants. Before we test these changes, let's change the shape of the hand origin so it looks nice. Now, let's test this in the VR headset to get a better look at our changes. When we look at our hands, we can see the hand origins tracking the VR controller's position and rotation. When we move, however, it's slightly delayed, but that's fine. Since our hands are just spheres, let's add a model to make it more visually appealing. I got these models by copying the man hands of Roblox and added a closed version of them using Blender. Let's hide these models below the base plate for now. I'll show you the properties I have set for my models so you can copy them and stay aligned with the tutorial. With the model set and ready, let's parent these models correctly. Start by dragging them into the VR character. Then, parent them to the VR model. Before parenting them to another object, create a folder inside the left origin and name it Hand Variants. Do the same for the right origin. Now, parent the models to their corresponding folders. Now, select the default pose you want to go with. For my models, it's the idle pose. Duplicate it. Parent this model to the left origin and rename it to Left Hand Mesh. Do the same for the right hand idle as well. Now that we have prepared our models, let's attach them to the hand origins. Create welds for both the left and right hand origin. Since we have models for our hands now, let's make the hand origins transparent. Let's now get back to scripting. In the player module script, create a function to change the pose of the hands. Now, in the onCharacterAdded function, make both of the hands default to the idle pose. In the VR local script, within the CalculateHandCFrame function, we'll set the C-frame of the hand model to the world C-frame with some adjustments to its rotation. In the player module script, at the top, add an offset for the right and left hands. I'll automate the left hand offset so it updates if we were to change the right hand offset too. Now, let's apply the hand offsets to the world C-frame in the VR local script. After all of that, let's test our changes and see if they work. As you can see, our hands aren't just gray spheres anymore. They are using the model we set for them. However, there is still no code to close our hands. Let's get back to scripting to add this feature. In the player module script, create a function to detect the hand inputs, also returning whether the input was from the right hand. Next, inside the VR local script, go to the top and reference the user input service. We'll use this to detect inputs from the VR controllers. At the bottom of the VR local script, add an input begin event and add in the change hand mesh function to close the hands. Then, add an input ended event to make the hand revert back to the idle pose. Let's test our changes in the VR headset. Our hands are still the same, but this time, when we press the bumpers on our VR controllers, the input began event fires, changing the pose of our hands.